But yeah, no, haven't played SWTOR. I like most MMOs. You either you die early enough to be remembered well, or you live long enough to become.
What is that from? You're gonna kill me.
Oh, is that Batman or something?
Yes.
Is
Yeah,
it?
that was The Dark Knight number one.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay.
God damn, it's gonna bug me if I didn't remember.
Can I
Such an
confide something?
iconic.
I have never seen The Dark Knight. I feel like it should be on a list somewhere for not seeing it.
Ah.
But it's
And
good
it's
though.
not. It's a good movie. Rip Heath Ledger, one
Yeah.
of the most famous Jokers, and definitely the best Joker. Well, I forget what. There's like three different types of Jokers in the comics, but
Oh
he
yeah,
definitely
but
played.
the old comics isn't it like legitimately like a clown, and it's like the old timey that all that old timey like comedy sort of thing.
Yeah, there was one that was just like he liked just freaking chaos, never really hurt anybody, just broke
Mhm.
shit and like spread out laughing gas. Then there
Oh
was one that
yeah,
was kind of like a mob boss, and then one that was just cynical,
there was the
which
rated
I
PG
think.
Joker at the very beginning.
Oh yeah, that one too. With the
uh,
gun, he just shoots out a little flag that says "bang."
oh yeah, no, the most terrifying one, of course, of course. Ah, well, man, awesome. It's always cool seeing you just walking every day and streaming. That's a great way to do it because you're streaming, but at the same time you get to talk about what you want, and then you're not going to get blood clots.
Oh,
So
I
no,
didn't even
really,
think about that. I mean, I'm 5'5", so and when I started gaming and when I started live streaming, like 2011,
mhm.
never really got into it, but I've been 5'5" for the last 13 years. I don't get any taller than this. And I used to weigh when I got out of high school, I weighed 110.
Oh my god, that's
And
wild.
when I started, yeah, I mean, I was very scrawny. I never really worked out, did anything. And I was like, I want to see what I look like with abs. And before I even get into that, I would drink root beer religiously.
Okay, okay, I do
I
have a
used to,
question about that though.
okay,
Barks or mug?
mug.
Okay, okay, okay. Good. I just needed to make sure.
A&W is, I do like A&W too, but they're kind of on decline. But definitely, if you're going to make a root beer float, mug is the way to go because it has the highest amount of vanilla content in the drink. That's why
See, I knew
it's
there was something
more
about
it's
it.
more flavorful.
I'm partial to like the fancier root beers. I like the not your dad's root beer or whatever. That stuff's fun, but it's like if I was gonna drink it every day,
Oh,
there's no way that stuff's so expensive. No
oh
way.
so speaking of that, uh, um, so how are we doing? Are we just watching each other's streams, or are we
Oh,
actually gonna like hook up together and stream together? Um,
oh, I think what we could do is if we wanted to show both of us, we could stream our cameras in Discord and then
okay,
capture our Discord and put it on our streams. That would be one way.
okay.
Um,
I mean, I can
I
easily do
okay. Will it just let me?
that. I think I could just, yeah.
I'll need to
I
turn off my camera.
Let's see, Streamlabs, Discord. There we go.
Oh dang! Oh, there's something through Streamlabs you can do in Discord.
Is there?
Oh, I thought that's what you were doing.
Oh no, I'm on Discord.
Oh,
It's
okay. Let me just make sure.
let's see, turn on camera.
Weird. It seems like I use NVIDIA Broadcast to cut out my background, so I feel like it can only stream the
I
audio.
do that too.
It looks like we're both continually trying to turn on our cameras in Discord and nothing's working. Oh, I can. Hmm. So
Yeah, so
unfortunately,
let me
looks like Discord. Like I would have to exit Discord if I wanted to stream. Sorry, I'd have to exit OBS if I wanted to stream my camera in Discord.
oh
Probably the same for you, I think, because it looks like you're just
yeah,
kind
I'm
of
just I'm
loading.
just getting three dots.
So we could either do that or just kind of, just keep our streams as is as well. Fine either way.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Yeah, not
Keep our
worth it
screens.
resetting everything. Um, but yeah, I was thinking of some things while I was biking around, but didn't really have a chance to write them down. So
Yeah,
um,
that's why like while you were gone, I wrote down uh everything because like I said, I just have a horrible memory. So I will forget things. If I'm really excited about things like Ashes, I basically try not to talk to anyone that I'm around because I'll forget who I tell. And I'm like, oh, did I tell you this? Did I tell you about this happened? You're like, yes, you
yep.
told me twice. I'm like, oh, well, I forget. I tell everyone everything. So,
Reminds me of that meme from. Did you ever watch Jimmy Neutron as a kid?
oh, I loved it.
Like, Sean, you brought. This is the fourth week you've brought Ultra Lord into class. Like Tanner, this is the or
Ultra Lord is awesome.
yeah, Rack, this is the fourth time you've told me about node sieges. Um, but yeah, I
I love that show.
oh yeah, 100%, absolute classic. I mean, I guess a first good place to start out with is I know you might have mentioned this before, like while you were just talking in
Probably.
stream, but while we're both here, it's like, what does your MMO history look like? Like,
Um,
what have you been doing?
um, so if we want to go back to the beginning, World of Warcraft 2004, I was 10 years old.
Yep.
Uh, and I just got fascinated. Basically like dropped my stopped playing my Xbox, barely played it. And I was just like so engrossed with classic WoW and, you know, just leveling. And I loved every class of it. I didn't really play rogues all that much. I mained well, I started a hunter, but then because 10-year-olds and I wasn't that bright, so it said enter name. So what do I enter? My name. And because mine was like, oh, now I gotta find a way to change it or whatever. You gotta
Mhm.
delete it, and it was like level 30 by the time he found out.
Honestly,
So
though,
I ended
good
up,
on your dad. That's more tech savvy than I
yeah,
think most dads would have been. You know?
yeah. I mean, and at the time, I really didn't know what a character name was. It just said enter name, so I was like, oh, okay,
Oh.
do Mr. Burns. But then I started playing a warrior, fell in love with the tanking just because at that time I was having issues surviving with other classes. I mean, being 10 and MMOs are still kind of new, so I kind of fell in love with that. And then as the game progressed, I played that all the way up until Cataclysm. Then I got into SWTOR when that released in 2012, and I played that for a long time. I played Assassin, Juggernaut, and the Shield Tech for the mercenaries or
Those
bounty
sound
hunters.
suspiciously like tanks to me.
Yes, all tanks. Um, and yeah, I just kind of fell in love with being a tank because I didn't like stressing about numbers
Mhm.
because some of the games like people were like, oh, you got to put out this much DPS, and trying to memorize all the different rotations was just too stressful for me. So I was like, you know what? I'll just sit here and take the damage, get slapped in the face. Y'all just do whatever.
Especially when you consider like you're a teenager at this point too. It's like,
Yeah.
you know.
And the guild I had in Star Wars, uh, we actually just stopped raiding in SWTOR. Like I knew them for almost 12 years now.
Wow.
People I have phone numbers. I met two of them in Vegas. And we,
That always seems to be where gamers meet up, is Vegas, and I have no idea why.
well, it was I didn't have to fly. I live in Southern California,
Oh, nice,
so it
nice.
was literally like a 3-hour drive. And they're like, "Oh, we're going to Vegas." And you say you live close. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like 3 hours drive." So I hopped over. I met their wives. They met me. They met my girlfriend, and we went out and talked about try not to talk too much about the game because we were out there relaxing.
But of course, you just met up
Uh,
having played this game for years, so
yeah, and hopefully I got like four of them to kind of watch me go through Alpha 2 and to pique their interest in this game. I have a buddy who's loved EverQuest. He loved playing bards, and when I told him that this game had one and it was a crucial role,
dropped
uh,
everything.
I mean, he was like, "Well, man, you gotta play that bard. And you gotta tell me how it is, because if it's so, then I might have to pick that game up."
I do have a question. Does he
And
play an instrument?
he does not that I
Ah,
know of.
fair.
If you
Okay.
were to ask him, so he's a bi raunchy dude. So if you were to ask him that question, he would say he plays the skin
In
flute.
flute, yep. I saw where that was going. Which, I mean, I think Steven has confirmed that the skin flute is in the game, hasn't he? I think so.
Skin flute? Oh god.
Yeah.
A slider for it or
Okay, the penny whistle, though. Or no, we were
uh,
talking about the 90s. I think what they need to add for the Bard class is that little, like, it was that cylinder where you turn it over and it goes like, "Wah," and then, oh. You know
oh
that
the,
thing?
the the rain sticks,
Yeah,
right?
that weird little rain
Or-
stick thing.
Yeah, it had like a cylinder in it that would like
Yep.
go all the way down and it would make the sound. Not a
I'm
rain stick. Rain stick had rice and nails in it,
I
but
am mostly just happy you were able to understand what I meant from that horrible rendition I just did. Oh
oh my
man.
god, yeah, I mean it's
So after SWOTOR, I mean that sounds like something you've played pretty much up until very recently. Were there any other major MMOs that you played?
n- we took a break because I don't know if you played SWOTOR, but the when EA took over, kind of like what WoW, they lost their talent trees. Everything was very they've been reusing content for the longest time. Like, oh, we got this one update. Okay, all the end game gear is basically crap, and you have to go through all the old done raids to be just as strong as you were before the update. Was there any new raids? No. There
Oh,
was one new story, like story mission, and that was it. And it's been like that way for 2, 3
but you know
years
what there were
for.
tons of? Hash shop
for
mounts.
oh my god!
You know
And
what? It was every update. I'm sure there were mounts.
every up, every update, and it was like every Star Wars show that came out, every Star Wars movie. Oh, Kylo Ren's like when the Kylo Ren is gets mad, he's like slices up the console. They put that in the game
Doesn't that not
as
even
a
okay? I don't want to open this can of worms, but doesn't that not even make sense? Like canonically, with the time period the game is from.
yeah. I mean, when the game first released, it had a nice story, right? So they had this big bad. If you ever played it, there's a guy named Darth Malgus, and he was kind of like the Darth Vader of that time. Like he was amassing his own army to fight against both the Sith and the Republic, and he dies in the end of a dungeon, or he
Oh,
falls off. Like Darth Maul, like he gets pushed off the side and goes down like the kind of like Darth Maul and Lord Sidious. He just falls down the hole.
I'm sure he
Then he
never
comes back.
returned.
He came back.
Yep.
Uh, you had to defeat him 3 times, but never was he a boss at the end of a raid. Even though he was supposed to be like this insanely
Huh.
strong force, Sith warrior who can like crush ships with his hands or with his mind or with the force. And they never make him a raid boss. He was always a dungeon boss, and now he's just chained up in the Sith capital.
Huh.
That's it. I'm like, that is the most BS shit I've ever seen. They led this guy up so much. He had 3 dungeons to himself, and we don't even get a raid from him.
Well, I feel like that really feeds into kind of the idea that a lot of people have expressed recently that they don't want to feel like some sort of uber god, like where you get to essentially in, up until probably recently in classic WoW, it's like you are the god, you are the all knowing destructive one. Like, and when you go in and you make a game and like you kill the big bad dude in a dungeon, I'm sure the developers are
Right.
like, oh, they're gonna feel really powerful and they'll feel awesome for beating this big bad guy. But also, it's just kind of like, if you
Y-
have, I'm thinking back to like, raid bosses in classic WoW. It's like you should feel kind of like you're just a number, you know, against this thing.
And,
You shouldn't be able to take the big bad evil guy with four of your best buddies. You should be
no,
something that
yeah.
you invest time into. It's
And
not you doing it.
I think WoW, I don't like. I mean, I love WoW's story. I've been following it for the majority, but it's kind of like died off
Yeah.
because they've been done so many retcons. I played Warcraft 2, 3. I played 1 a couple of years ago when it was on sale, and I love the story, the startup story, but like the whole thing, like Lich King was. If you look in how many players played WoW, and even for the
Peaks there.
expansion, yeah, peaks, and then it drops. But
Mm.
they retcon his story so much
Oh,
on who's behind. Because at first it was like this orc warlock named Ner'zhul who embodied the helmet that made him go corrupt and all that stuff. And then it was someone else. And then it was this jailer, which was the Shadowlands Zen guy, who was mastering it all, or being the giant puppet master behind everything. And
and
it's
so it's like,
like
who
at this
is like
point,
it seems like they have an idea that they want something to have happened, but they can't think of anything else besides big bad evil guy. you know?
yeah, and that's the other thing with WoW that just kind of seemed, hey, you just killed Illidan, like this demon hunter night elf that's been alive for 10,000 years. You just went and wiped the floor with them. Okay, now go to this northern continent and struggle against boars. It's like,
Also,
but in the
the
story
legendary
aspect,
sword of that boss in Naxxramas? Here's a green that's going to be better right off the bat.
right?
Well, yeah, so
And
after SWTOR, I think you mentioned you also played some other stuff too? Like New
yeah, I
World a bit?
played stuff like here. I played New World when that came out. Before that, I played Guild Wars.
One or
On and
two?
off. One. Oh, I'm sorry, two.
Okay.
Never played one. I played Rift. I was really excited for Rift because they kind of had the same pitch meeting that Ashes had, and what got me excited for that was random rifts would open up, and it would be like elemental monsters that would come out of the rift and invade. And they said, oh, if you don't, take them down, they get bigger and bigger until they become a raid boss that just wanders
The
the
world.
certain zone.
Huh.
But it never really came to that,
Hmm.
and the game became so pay to win that the game died off. But if you never played it, essentially there was only 4 classes when the game started, but every class had 7 different skill trees that you can pick and choose. So you can have, a combination of the three of whatever you want, and then that's your class.
Oh, so it's kind of like you could pick and choose from each sort of tree, and they were kind of, it was different
Yeah.
enough that you had a lot of build variety opportunity.
By I think by their first expansion, every class could play any role. A mage was just like it was like a generalization. You're a mage. All right, here's a pyro tree. Here's an ice tree. There's a nature tree for healing. That one was really unique.
Huh.
And then there's like I forget what the tanking one was, but yeah, like every tree can have a kind of had its own kind of niche thing. And it was really cool until the game died so much that uh, there was basically like no one. And when I made a new character after a year, there was like no one in the starting
Oh,
zones.
wow.
It was so dead.
I think
But
that's
they
one
had a
of the
good
things
concept.
that, I'm excited about Ashes for, because we've all had that experience where you enter either a new MMO or you return to an MMO and you make a new character and nobody's in the zone. Like there's nobody there. And then there's nothing that's
Empty.
quite as, bad feeling as having made a new character and all of a sudden there's just nobody where the starting zone is. It's like, you're like, is the game dead? What's going on here? And so the fact that, the starting zone could be near a focal point of the entire server, and you're going to be seeing high level players like in the like if you join 6 months into Ashes, odds are, the node you join is going to have higher level players who need to go there for some reason or another, whether it's a raid boss, whether it's some sort of, high level crafting material. So it's not like, the only time I remember, playing WoW when I played WoW back in like 2004 was if you saw a high level person in like an early level leveling zone, it might be Horde and you might be Alliance. They might be trying to gank you. you know,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. That's kind of interesting to me. So yeah, I totally get that. You log into the game and it makes you not want to play it if there's nobody there. Said when you're coming back to Rift, that was kind of the case.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like I tried with a buddy who's currently playing Classic WoW right now.
Hmm.
Uh, and like he liked it, but yeah, like there was no people there. I also played Arcage as well. Black Desert Online were other two.
Nice. Did you put a lot of time into Arcade? Because I've heard that that is definitely the game on the list I've heard so far that's the most comparable to probably what Ashes is going to be doing, at least from kind of a
I did. I want to say I played that for a good 2 3
oh
years
dang.
before our guild kind of disbanded, and it was pretty fun. I mean, there wasn't really skill trees, but you know how you could pick and choose, and then that made your class. I liked that. Um, Ironically, the funnest time I had in that game was fishing, and um,
Elaborate. I'm down. I'm down.
so like the whole thing with the fishing there. And I really hope my memory is not deceiving. This is some other game because I think it was, yeah, it was Arcade. Um, so like you go on, you had to build a fishing boat, it's exclusive a fishing boat, and when you went out there and fish, it's just like Ashes is going to be purely PvP. Anyone can come and take all your fish and sell it, kind of like
Mhm.
how they have Glint. And it was the whole fishing thing itself was more interactive than most fishing you have in other games, where it's like just click it like in WoW where you just click the bobber and that's it. New World has something where you had to hold and like you had to just keep like slowly edging it to the full
I do remember
without
that
breaking the
one,
line.
yeah.
But this one, like you had to, depending on how the fish was moving, you had to like either give it slack, uh, like pull it back, lean to the left or lean to the right,
Oh
and you
wow.
got to constantly do that. So like one fish could take you about 10 minutes to catch, but it can net you a lot. It was fishing in that game was like one of the most lucrative money making things in the game, I believe,
Oh, that's
outside
that's
of
awesome.
Thunderstruck trees.
So it
I mean
was like
that
a
game came,
full
yeah,
on mini game. It was like a full
yeah, it
on
was
like you could get better at it too. And like a good fisher wasn't just a high level fisher. A good fisher was somebody who would actually have the patience and ability to
to
catch the
do
good
it,
fish.
yeah. And then on top of that, you had pirate ships that you had to like because if you're on a fishing boat, you have no weapons, you just have storage.
Oh wow.
So if you're going out there, they had ghost ships and then they had leviathans, which are like giant monsters. Most times, like they're sharks that could come and like attack your boat.
Did you have to worry about PvE
Uh,
ships as well? Or sorry, PvP ships?
yeah, that was they were the most dangerous amongst.
That
I mean, because pirate ships, you can see like, oh crap, can't go over there. You know, we see a level 5 pirate ship, which is like I think it was a galleon, and just think of like the Flying Dutchman, which I
Mhm.
think they had that in the game as a world boss,
Oh wild.
where it there just comes up from the bottom, and you're just sitting there loading all your cannons. And sorry if I kind of take breaths because of the walking and talking a lot.
Oh, it's all good. I'm surprised you're like spitting a rap here. I'm surprised you've been able to
Um,
keep walking.
I mean, 15 days
Oh
of
yeah.
doing this and you kind of get used to it. Um, but yeah, like, I like the idea of you had to prep because you had to make sure your ship was repaired. You had to have cannonballs. You had to actually craft the cannonball so you can't just waste shots.
Yeah.
You had basic ones, you had combustible ones, and then you can also, swing onto their ship or jump and climb into their ship and fight them on there. So it was like a whole kind of, having to have enough Navy ships to actually combat it, and then being able to get on there and fight the boss that's controlling the ship as well.
And that's something that's I find very engaging when like when you have to prepare in a town for the content you're about to do. I don't know, that gets me so much more invested in what I'm about to do, you know? I can't just carry everything I need with me all the time. I think the closest analogy in Ashes would be like, if you want to do one sort of gathering or one sort of activity versus another, you're probably going to be changing the backpacks you have and what.
Changing the backpacks, making sure you have the right gathering gear,
Exactly.
the gathering tool, and I like that. I'm really glad he's not doing looking for group.
Yeah.
Ask anyone in the WoW community that killed anyone who actually cares about the WoW community that killed it, and they said that like, oh, when it comes out in the Wrath Classic, we're not going to act like that. And my buddy said like, dude, as soon as they release it, people will be dropping groups. You die to an ad, boom, they leave. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's
it's because you have no time investment. You don't have to walk there anymore. You don't have to spend 15 minutes traveling to the raid or the dungeon.
Yeah, because I mean, especially in like classic or TBC as well. It's like I guess TBC to a lesser extent, but you were
Yeah.
walking to the dungeon. If you did not have a warlock, you got to think twice about whether or not you want to just drop a group. You're gonna try to make things work because you just finished getting there for 20 minutes with everybody else.
And I mean, this may be what do they call it? Like when it might be a hated comment.
Might be
Hot not
a little bit spicy. Might be
uh,
oh man, I totally get what you're saying. A unpopular opinion.
yeah, hot take. That's what it
Oh, there
was.
we go.
But I really hope that there is no mage table
Okay. Like just being able to
because
summon a mage table and have it just like everybody get their raid gear, raid consumables. I mean,
so yeah, like well, and WoW,
yeah, the health and mana
it was like
regen.
yeah. I really hope they don't do that because it ruined basically like, oh, we have to have a mage, but he does crap DPS or he's not a good. He always dying in fights. Oh, but we need him to have the mage table,
Hmm.
and I think players should come prepared. They should want to put the time in to invest. Oh, we're going to be versing, you know, and we're going to be going to and fight this dragon and the core of the volcano. I'm going to need to get fire resistant potions. I'm a healer, so I'm going to want a lot of mana potions. Not rely on just can the mage summon me a table. Oh, we don't have a mage. Well, I'm fucked.
And one of the interesting things about that as well is it opens up more space for consumables to be a tradable resource, just for player to player trading. I remember because I played classic WoW when it first came out and or not well when it first came out way back when, but played it more seriously when they came out with the vanilla more recently. And there were so many consumables in classic WoW that you could use like raid
Oh, yeah.
consumes. You'd be like huffing candles from a level 12 quest or from level 12 mobs and things like that. And so like
And
you need to have people collecting these things. And when you have a mage table, I guess I'm less worried. I mean, I'm less against having a way to more quickly regen health and mana on a large scale. It's just there needs to be enough opportunity for there to be an ecosystem of trading around consumables. Like there needs to be it.
I think it was in the. Shoot, I'm trying to remember where I remember him saying it, but that you'll be able to put up little shops outside of
Yep.
dungeons, or you can like you post up a shop wherever, and you can just sell your inventory to people. And I'm like, that is so awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Like you could just, but I'm wondering like how the PvP aspect, like, hmm, he has potions, but I'm broke as a joke. But I can wipe the floor with them. Can I just kill him and take everything?
I think I
I
remember
mean,
player shops being one of the few places where you cannot be Um, at least I think I remember that. I'll have to look up and see it, but if I remember the way that this could work is so every node will have like did you watch the AMA Steven did more recently? Did like an AMA with
Gladius,
yeah, Vladius and
Gladius,
Nice.
nice, Lord Forge, yeah.
Yeah, I loved how he talked about in that about the different abilities of player housing because I think a lot of people didn't realize just you could have the Maple Story set up a shop anywhere sort of thing, you know? So there were essentially, he was saying every node will have a marketplace where people can set up those shops. Like you will be able to set up either a static player shop or you'll be able to set up like your own personal player shop. Like those are two separate shops. And then if in an economical node, they'll be able to sell you some sort of permit so you can set up your shop anywhere in the world. So all you need to do is make sure you travel to a Metropolis economic node, whatever level it is,
That's cool.
get this permit, and then you can set up shop at your convenience wherever the heck you want. So I think that's going to be really fun. That'll be cool cuz not only like I don't think that auction houses are going to be the end all be all of player trading. Like, of course there's going
Yeah,
to be a
I
lot of
think.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I think it's just gonna be for more basic stuff,
Yeah.
especially when since only economic nodes connect all their other nodes.
Mhm.
Because kind of like in a New World where you had to go to every new town to see what they had. I mean,
Yeah.
that was just so annoying to do, and I hate wait systems in games. Uh, I
Mhm.
I hated gathering because of the wait system. I'd rather have a limited storage system rather than a wait system.
Mhm.
I, I don't know. That just might be me, but because like in
That
Black
makes
Desert
sense.
Online, they had a wait system, but it was a lot easier to just dump your shit into a storage and then go back.
Mhm.
That one had like a whole node system in itself with workers and all that stuff. But
Yeah, I'm of the opinion, I'll handle any system I need to as far as that is, but I do like the space system a bit more than the weight. Because then I can kind of better plan. Because I feel like when I have like a space constrained system, a constrained system, I like, if I have a weight system, the next thing I pick up, I don't know how much it's gonna weigh. Especially in New World where you could pick up a lot of different amounts of objects. What was annoying was going over your weight, then having to find out what you need to drop and then running back. Whereas, in WoW or something, when I'm doing a run for ore or something, I can be like, okay, every one of these loops it takes about 4 spaces, and so I should probably head back now before I need to waste anything. But what
yeah,
I was talking
the
about auction houses, because like you mentioned, only economic nodes are going to be connected. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for players to do essentially arbitrage. They'll be able to, that an auction house might not be the best place to sell things because it might be better just to sell the mushrooms you have at other nodes where people don't know the value of them. You might be able to sell something for 100, 200% of what just to another player in trade chat of what it's worth just because they don't know what it's worth in another place, or maybe the time it takes to go to the auction house is just so high, especially when you're talking about 300 miles across of uh
I mean, on the map thing, it says if you were to walk. See, I think this number is still going to be slightly longer because
mhm.
when you look at the map size, which I'm doing right now,
Oh yeah,
it
it's not a
says in
cube.
order to walk. Yeah, right, and it's not a straight shot either.
Mhm.
Like you're not just going to walk through the mountains and whatever. But it said like the duration of walking from the south point of one continent to the north would be an hour and 15 minutes. I'm like, you sure about that? Because that's a lot of area to traverse in 1 hour.
I feel
Like I would
like
think like it would take like I feel like it would be like 30 minutes to go. Like say if we're looking at the Sand Squalls Desert,
mhm.
it would probably take like 30 minutes or maybe 20 minutes to go from the bottom to the top. I would say 30 minutes because you have mountains, you have canyons, lakes that you have to go by. I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, just it seems like it would be maybe like an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours to go from the bottom to the top.
not to
Because not
mention
only that, you have
hostile mobs. Like
yeah,
hmm.
but yeah, the whole what were you saying like the little shops? It would be funny. Just I mean, I just can imagine how the shops are gonna look. Like I said, like oh, we're gonna go inside this volcano and defeat the fire dragon that's making it active. And as we're walking there, you see these little lemonade shops. Like get your health potions,
That's my thought. Yeah.
fire potions, 5 gold.
Oh man, I was watching one of Sunny's streams or the Loreforge podcasts, and they were just like, "You just set up your Gatorade shop, get your Gatorade." Like, you won't find it better anywhere else. And like, there's always those players that are like, a character. It's like everybody in your server knows them. They're the dude who role plays that he just RP walks everywhere and yells about random
Oh
things.
my god.
And so I feel like shops, there's just going to be such an opportunity, especially with the people who are interested in Ashes. It seems like there's a lot more people who'd be willing to role play or are used to older MMOs where you can do that and it's fun. We're going to see some
Yeah.
characters.
So I actually talked to Cash because my issue with for me finding a guild is my wife, and some of those guilds. I mean, hardcore PvPers are out of the question because me and my wife we're not
Mhm.
PvPers. I will be willing to PvP, like say, oh hey, can you come help with this guy named Rack? He's
Yeah.
briefing us. Can you come help me? Sure, if I'm in the area, fine. But I'm not about to travel from the west continent to the east in hopes that he's still there. That
Oh,
is
yeah.
that is like a long, I'm like 40 minutes to get to you, and it's a waste of time.
Mhm.
But I'm like, it's
But if
hey,
a
we're gonna
node's
have
getting
a
attacked
a
and we
node
know
war.
it's happening on Thursday,
Yeah,
sure, I'll be there. Like, come on.
yeah, I can actually prep and get there beforehand.
And plan ahead.
But um, but yeah, I was talking to Cash, and like he said that me and my wife would be welcome. We don't have to RP. I'm not bad at pretending.
Mhm.
I mean, I can pretend like for a couple, maybe like 10 minutes, pretend to be my character. But
That's
to
just kind of
keep
hard.
that character in your mind constantly,
Mhm.
I can't do that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, no worry, you don't ever have to. I mean, it's just something that we like to do." And so I was like, okay, I might think about it. But my main concern is um, going to go with my questions since I have 13
Oh,
or
yeah.
opinion questions. So, do you think that Metropolis bonus buildings, so like the arena, the auction house, the teleportation scientific nodes had, and the catacombs, do you think the buildings were or the areas will be accessible to all players or citizens only?
No, that's a good question. If I remember, I think they might have mentioned that some things are only available to node, like a player's or a node citizens or their vassals. I
Right.
honestly, I don't, I think they'll be available to everybody. And why I think they'll be available to everybody is you need to have them have like their value, like for maximum value. Like you
Mhm.
want people to have to travel to your node to use their resources. Like if it's good enough that I can teleport somewhere, I think it should be accessible to everybody. But perhaps they have to pay a fee or something like everything else. Or
Okay.
but
Thank God someone gets that because that's what I was saying. The only one that isn't like an issue is the mega catacombs. Is like so what every time you enter, hey, you gotta pay this much. But I was like, what if they gave them a debuff? You are not a citizen of the node. 50% of your gold collected will be taken from you.
oh wow.
Kind of I mean, how much do you, sorry, I should rephrase that. How much gold do you think people actually get just from killing mobs? It's generally not that much.
Yeah, definitely not.
Anyway, but I mean, it would be enough to where it's like a fee. If you wanted to use scientific teleportations, it would cost you a fee. Maybe for the military node, if you collect a bounty, you get less money because you're not a citizen of the node.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that would be still kind of fair.
And taxes and whatnot make sense to me. It's like this is a lot of these systems are built upon the idea that taxes are going back to the node. If you put in the effort to make your node a mega transport hub, then you should be able to get some money from people who also want to be transported by it. It just kind of makes sense. And maybe even your own, and then that's the incentive to want to be a citizen of this node is like, I use this service all the time. I don't want to pay as much. So that makes sense to me. How about you? What was your thought on that?
I mean, I would definitely want to be part of the node that has because my main character, my tank is definitely going to be a grandmaster crafter of shields or heavy plate armor. And so I will probably focus on my guild's node um until it becomes like a metropolis or whatever once it
Mhm.
starts to max out. Then I'll switch. Or depending on how big the fee is. But I would like to have a node to have that Grandmaster crafting station. And
I
it's
don't
really interesting.
I don't remember.
Actually,
Are you
it kind
allowed
of
to are you allowed to carry resources when you're teleporting in the Metropolis nodes? Because I know that you're not able to if you like do a family teleport. If you do a family teleport, then you're not allowed to carry certain materials. Um,
that's a good question because that's what I was always interested. Like, because in BDO, like if you wanted to transfer, because you had to do it through a carriage because of the
yeah.
weight. But I don't know if there's going to be weight in this, so it might just be a way to transfer an abundance of, like, say, wood, metal, ingots, herbs, or whatever.
Yeah, because they've
But then you're doing
specifically
at the
said
risk.
that when you do any sort of fast teleporting, like the family teleport or whatnot, that you're not able to take resources over specifically, because that would kind of negate the need for caravans in a lot of cases. But I don't know. I forget if well, maybe I could look it up. I forget if
They also did
Metropolis
say, like,
has
if
it.
you're corrupted, resources is what you'll be dropping as well, not just your gear.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, it's gonna be. I do wonder how many people are actually gonna go corrupted,
I
especially.
I mean, personally, I'm gonna be green.
Mhm.
Just because, I mean, uh, when the game launches, like if I'm leveling up a character, I'm just gonna go green. I'm not. I want to play with my wife, play with my friends, and just level up and do that. I mean, if a red character wants to come over and try to f with us, I'll take him on. But I'm not the kind of guy to go out of my way. Like I'm even in real life, I'm very non-confrontational, but I won't back down from a fight if that makes
Yeah, no, that makes
sense.
sense. It's like you
Like
have to weigh it in your head. What's worth more, the resources I'd save by being a combatant, or the fact that this person knows if they kill me, they'll get corruption? Like,
And I think the whole corruption thing is awesome. I did read in the question someone had asked, and for this month's live stream, is how will Steven prevent people from just having a friend kill them who's not part of his node? Just kill him and then guard his resources so he doesn't lose any. He can just lose the corruption. And I think if you have a friend that's outside your node and wants to do that, I think that is completely fine.
mhm, just as kind of a tactic that you could use, and that actually actually bleeds
Yeah.
into one of my questions that I had or thought about while I was biking. What do you think is going to be the most, or either the most abusable system or just unabusable system? And how do you think people are going to try to do it?
Most abusable system
Yeah.
in terms in like PvE or PvP or just anything?
I'll give you an example of like, one of the things that crosses
Okay,
my mind. So,
okay.
with a node war, I'm assuming that the node that wins the war is going to get some substantial reward. Uh, right? If you win a node
Right.
war, whether it's, XP, whether it's gold, whether it's just a huge chunk of experience or whatnot, you're going to be able to, I would think, get some sort of reward beyond just winning the war and getting that, at least in the case of the live stream, just that small area where you get XP in their node. Like there's got to be some monetary value or XP value for the participating. And so an
I'm
X some sort of thing I could see is, let's say we have a small node. Um, what if as a larger node you come into an agreement with this small node, you're going to get a war, they're going to lose as quickly as possible, and maybe you give them some lump amount of gold or something like that. Just a node losing on purpose or selling a node war win essentially, so that the winning node gets what they want essentially, and the smaller node maybe gets some sort of monetary value from the larger node.
I mean, that's more like a transactional, and I
Yeah.
don't see an issue with that. I mean, both parties are technically benefiting if the node that loses doesn't lose too much, and the winning node just kind of gets a bonus XP. I think that's and they paid for it. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah, no,
I
I could
mean,
see that. I bet they're gonna try to architect it so that the penalty for losing is large enough that people will not you need to pay a lot for something like that.
this isn't a question I had for you, but just because of off that,
Mhm.
so my question is, what purpose, like, so there's only supposed to be what, 5 or 6 metropolises throughout the 85.
5, I think.
Okay, you see how big these maps are. How close are these maps to each other where one metropolis would even care what's happening on the north side if he's all the way on the south side, and the other metropolis on that, say the east island, the only other metropolis is on the north side, and there's nothing else in the middle, just level 3 nodes. What purpose would a metropolis node have to gain
To, like, fight
to
another.
go to? Yeah, because they're so far away. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me. The thing that would make sense to me is a level 5 node that's a vassal node. Maybe they want, maybe they don't want to be a level 5. Maybe they want to be in Metropolis. And can a node, can a vassal node declare war on their parent?
That's an interesting point. And actually, I remember Steven saying that in the last live stream, I think, is that a vassal node will not be able to declare node on their parent node or anything like that. Just due to I think his lore reason was that any sort of dissension is crushed or something. But from a gameplay perspective, I'm kind of with you on this that it's going to be hard to have, at least in my opinion, these large metropolis nodes want to fight each other because there is just so much riding on the line and that probably an inhibitive cost. And what do they have to gain if they destroy this other metropolis? It would have to be some large amount of resources and pillaging from it only.
I
Um,
mean, the only
I
thing I
thought,
can think of are these unique
yeah,
artifacts that people would have. Like, that's the only thing I can see people actually fighting Metropolis to Metropolis. It, and I don't know. It's just very.
'cause a
Why
node
wouldn't you
declares war on
want a
another
lower?
node, right? So I think the
Right,
meta would probably be you have your tier 5, one step below a metropolis. You have your tier 5 node declare war on the metropolis you'd want to fight, essentially.
right. Because other than that, you would just basically have to wait. Because if a vassal node can't declare war on its parent, and you want your node to become a metropolis, you basically have to wait for that metropolis to be invaded, destroyed, and then. But they said if they destroyed the metropolis node, all the nodes below it basically get destroyed, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. And so if yeah, it's kind of hard in that scenario because if all the nodes didn't get destroyed underneath the metropolis, actually, I'm not sure if they all get destroyed.
Yeah,
I
I was thinking like it would be better if instead they all got destroyed, they just got de-leveled one. Or maybe
hmm,
just the Metropolis gets destroyed, and then boom, now you have two.
level 5s that are
See, I think
vying,
that right now you have two level 5s that have to go to war with each other to become the new Metropolis,
And I think this is going to
and
be a
that would create
perfect.
a lot of pure fiction.
Oh yeah, and this I think this will be perfect because I could see both ways being engaging and fun. There just needs to be a way for this change to take effect. There needs to be a way for this change to happen because it'd be. I mean, if I was a tier 5 node and I wanted to be a tier 6 node, I could see it being a gameplay choice that they make to make it so that that tier 5 node would have to talk and come into an agreement with maybe a tier 6 another metropolis somewhere else and say, hey, we want to bankroll and help you take out our parent. There needs to be some sort of
I
intrigue
mean,
there, but if it's going to be
that's
destroyed, there's no room for that.
yeah, like because then you would have to basically rebuild from the bottom up, and as it says on the wiki, that can take months.
Oh yeah, take a long time.
And yeah. And
So,
that's actually pretty interesting. Like when the game first launches, we're gonna see a whole bunch of level threes pop up
oh
everywhere.
my god,
But
so
then
quick.
like, and they say like, oh, it'll take like a week. Or actually, let me look that up.
I think yeah, I think tier threes should take about a week, is what they said, or a week or two might have been it. But we're gonna see a lot of that, and I think that Alpha 2 is gonna be the perfect bed to test this stuff.
Oh
Because
yeah,
a lot of these systems sound interesting, and I hope that they have some expedited testing on this, because what I don't want to see is come 3 4 months down the line things get stale. The same metropolises have been here. They have no reason to stick out their necks and try and attack another metropolis. I
they already
guess
got what they want. They're the biggest,
yeah.
they- um,
I guess
yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
monster
I
coin
think
things are a way to try and delevel nodes, because I think a monster attack can like you can atrophy a
if
node
no
enough that it
one,
could get leveled.
yeah, because according to his Node live stream, which was like 3 4 years ago,
Yeah.
when he had like the little tiny slideshow thing with the little cards moving around,
Yep.
I love that.
That's such a good
And
one.
it's like every so often, monster would come and try to invade the town, and if no one stopped them, it would eventually like destroy a building, and if it got destroyed so often, like it would actually de-level you. There's also the level degradation that every node has, where I think it's once a day
The
they
upkeep.
lose 10%. Yeah, they lose 10% of their experience. So theoretically, if a metropolis, if no one quests within that metropolis for 10 days straight, it gets de-leveled by default.
That is
Which
wild to
one
think about.
and the other we haven't even touched my questions.
Oh no, I mean
But
it's fine. We're having a good time.
uh so well, this isn't a question but it's a question I like to ask is what do you think is the level range per node stage?
Oh, level range of like the creatures.
Right, from within the node. Because from my understanding, if metropolises are basically where all end game is going to happen because it's the furthest node stage, that means the area you would basically not even need to leave
Leave.
the
Yeah.
node because it's going to level up with you.
Yeah. Because, well, I guess one thing to think about is I think if correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember them saying something along the lines of the lower level monsters will be more centrally located, closer to the node hub itself. And then as you get further away from like the general node hub itself, the monsters will have a higher level. I could see cases where, in a metropolis node, perhaps you have some very low levels around you, but a metropolis node size wise is going to be the same size as, tier one node by
Yeah, the
land.
size is going to be the same,
Yeah.
but they're going to have like maybe caves will like spawn open so you can actually go into them,
It
or
could it could just be like
things would
perhaps
arise.
it'll be more optimal for you to go to a lower level node, because then you know that, if the node is ranged from 1 to 10 and you're leveling up, there's going to be more, like proportionally more level 1 through 10 enemies. If with a metropolis node, if let's just say it's 1 to 53 or whatever, if they decide to go levels above a creature as them being a very hard one like WoW does. Um, then proportionally, if you have between levels 1 through 50, there are thinner bands of areas where you're actually having mobs that are closer to your level. I think with extra XP from quests, just mob densities and whatnot, you're probably going to want to head and travel to at least vassal nodes. It'll probably be more advantageous to you to level up via this. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see how the leveling looks like in this game, because I'm
Yeah,
not
because
quite
it's
sure
not
what it's
like
going to
there's
look
gonna
like.
be an end game area, right? It's
Right?
everything's gonna be leveling up,
Like, I don't
and
think Joe Schmo XX69 the Rogue, who just starts a new character and goes to a Metropolis node, is going to be able to level 1 through 50, at least in any sort of like non mind numbing way in a Metropolis node.
right.
I think it'll be at least, more advantageous for him to go to other nodes. I'd hope
See,
so.
the way I kind of like looked at it, because all right, so you have node 0, which is nothing, which everything is nothing, and then when you get to level 6, it's supposed to be max level 50,
Hmm.
with maybe the occasional raid and bosses having one level higher. So the way I saw was when it's when we start in the fresh game, there's nothing, it's gonna be 0 to 15. And then as you level up to expedition, it's gonna be 0 to 20. But once you get into encampment, which is level 2, the minimum level will be 5 and the newest level will be 25. And it will keep going up that way to where when you're in a metropolis, the lowest level is 30
Hmm.
and the highest level is 50. So it's gonna like raise both the minimum and the maximum 5 every time.
Do you think that would adversely affect newer players trying to get to those nodes, or would you want to keep the roads at least relatively safe from mobs?
I think he said roads are relatively going to be safe. I mean, we saw him when he was walking. He had that spider. I think it was about like a year ago. He was walking. He had
Yeah.
like the spider. It was like getting ready to attack. He's like, "Come at me, motherfucker! I'm throwing hands."
Do you
I
ever
thought that was
play? Do
pretty cool.
you ever play an alliance character
No,
on like in classic?
I played Alliance when I was like 11, and I just did not like the story
Well, because the reason
or
I ask is
the skill
because
areas.
if you're a night elf and you want to get to Stormwind, you have to run through the wetlands, and you might run through the wetlands as like a level 2. And I just remember like being so spooked because you would be killed by these random crocodiles that were like level 28 or something. And so I could just imagine newer players who are like, oh my gosh, I want to see what this auction house is like. Just you just walk from, one node to the other and you see littered corpses of all these like level 3 people trying to get to the Metropolis node.
I mean, that kind of, yeah. I mean, I would be kind of like, oh, there's something over here. Better keep my eyes open. But I don't know, because I think that's a pretty fair thing though, because like the first people embarking, kind of like in a lore wise, the first people embarking, right? They're clearing a path to the Metropolis nodes, and so people who decide to play maybe like 6 months later, that we have, all the metropolises, everything's level set up. Okay, you load in, and you're like, okay, I can't go to the higher level nodes yet. And let me explore these expeditions. But then it comes down to how nodes are set up, which is kind of an issue with my idea of the leveling system. Is um, what nodes? Because like you have Metropolis has 2 level 5s. A level 5 can have a 3 and a 4, and then it just kind of says X below it. Like, how does that work in leveling schemes?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, is every node going to be like max out level 3 until something gets destroyed? Or
Oh yeah, because I
no?
forgot you can get up to level 3, right, with all nodes.
I guess so.
Oh, or does it?
I mean,
It
that's
still locks
basically,
out because some things will still be locked at level 1, right?
see, I don't know. Maybe like the little area that you start in will can kind of level you up to level 5 at least.
Hmm.
Um, well,
So
since we're
I
talking
got.
about levels,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
you're good.
I got a question for you. One of my questions
Sure.
that I was random. I wrote down in my head while I was nearly getting hit by a car. Um, so
Fine.
how? First of all, I guess this is a kind of a two-part question. Do you think there should be non-player PvP related events that can de-level nodes, such as some sort of calamity happening or some event or something like that? And if so, how often do you think it should occur?
Uh, I'm gonna the first part. Don't they already have that? Oh, not calamity, but don't monsters periodically attack the camps?
Yeah,
Supposedly.
yeah. But I mean unavoidable, like some
Oh,
unavoidable deleveling. Or just
mm,
because I, at least for me, it's like one of my favorite things in classic WoW was doing like the war effort for Ahn'Qiraj to open it up. People had to band together
yeah,
to open it.
right.
If that same thing happens for your level 6 node where you have to band together and it's really difficult, sure. Should it be
Yeah,
pretty difficult to avoid?
well, so basically it is like the monsters attacking, but it's just on a larger scale. I full heartedly agree. I think that is awesome. And
Oh
it
yeah.
definitely should be a thing because because it basically gives some sort of incentive for people to actually care about their node for one, it gives like random like, oh, I'm just gonna go and do herbs. Nothing going on today. I don't have a raid today. And then you see, Winstrad is under attack by, Cthulhu. No, we need
Are
our
you are
numbers
you
of 10.
leaking things here? Cthulhu confirmed.
I haven't even talked to Steven, and I really hope that one of these days he will hop in on my walk because I know Planendorf has hopped in so many times, and I love talking to him.
Hmm.
And I try not to.
Yeah, you don't want to ask him
Uh,
about things like that because it's just kind of
yeah,
in.
he's off. He's off. He's relaxing at
Yeah.
work. We're watching a stream. I don't want to pry too much, and I think if Steven hopped in here, I wouldn't even want to ask him too much. Maybe something tank related, but just like one question, then ask him how his day is going.
Yeah.
How are the kids, or how's his cough that he never seems to go away.
Planendorf has a cough.
No, Steven,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
his infinite cough.
Oh, yes, the cough. But no, that makes sense. It's like you need a reason to care about your note. And at least from my perspective, like I don't want things to get stale. I want there to be a point where if you're not on your A game and things like the difficulty ramps up enough that the things attacking your node, if you are not completely on your A game and having everybody work together, that eventually you get worn down enough that you needed to level your. Because I think like I don't, and maybe this is something that happens over a period of months even. Just because if I don't think large node PvP or like large nodes, I don't think are going to be destroyed very often at all. And so just to have some sort of
That's good.
change. Sorry?
No, no, I agree. I think, and I, um, I think this is what you're saying. Like the longer the node is in power, if the longer the node is level 6, the harder the difficulty
Yep.
becomes.
Yeah.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Because it's also cool from
But
just like a player perspective. It's like shit, things are going sideways. Like everybody.
Stormwind has been up for 7 months and no one can destroy it. Let's just send waves of, you know, fire dragons and drakes and dragonkin to attack it,
Well,
or
because
horde of zombies.
one of the cool things about that is Steven mentions that PvE is going to build up the game and PvE will change the world.
Change it. I am. I had asked my wife when the game launches, could I get like a banner with that printed and put it right behind me?
Well, one of the cool things about, fighting off enemies like that, actually saving your node, is that instead of just solely PvE players having a say with whether a node survives or not, suddenly, if you're really good at PvE, nodes are going to want you for these defenses.
Right.
It's like it's not just the PvP sweat lords that are. I mean, of course you're going to need PvP, but
Yeah.
as a PvE player, it'll also be as important that you're able to defend your node, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is to feel like you're just some observer, you know.
Yeah. I understand that. Um. So, you mind if I ask you one of these 12 questions I have left?
Yes.
All right. 1 to 12. I'll let you pick.
Let's choose 9.
All right. 9. There it is. What are your opinions about gatherables having random spawn locations with the land management system versus set spawn points and timers?
That's a good question. A little background on me. When I played Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King Classic, when they came around this time around, I was a miner on my character, and I had all of the nodes down. I had my own routes. I would run those routes. I'm in a meeting at work. Oh, gotta run my Mithril True Silver route. you know, I work from home,
Uh,
so I was able to do that.
that's
But
lucky you.
I know, right? I absolutely I liked that a lot, but I think there should be preferably 90% random, 10% not random. I think there should be like maybe on some really rare things. Like I love the idea of most things being random and that you kind of need to be good at knowing where they might spawn and knowing the general area in which they spawn. But then you kind of help more eliminate bots or people who are just completely overrunning certain spawns. Um, like the
Oh,
black.
I know all about bots and
Oh,
Burn Crusade with the shadow moats and Shadow
oh
Valley.
God, yeah, killing all those void walkers for those moats.
The
Um,
shadow moats was a pain in the ass.
but I do think that maybe instead of like there would always be. Do you know like Black Lotus or what they were in class? I think they were Black Lotus. Essentially, it was what you needed to make the one of the best raid consumables. You needed a Black Lotus, and they were on specific spawns, and they were botted to hell. I think what would be much cooler is you have random spawns around the map, but then you have areas in which a rare item will always spawn, but it'll be like somewhere on this mountain. It'll be here. It's not. We're not going to tell you exactly where it is, but in this like acre wide area or half acre wide area, if it will spawn here, and it's going to spawn here,
I I
right?
think they actually plan to do that, like where certain areas are going to be where certain things grow,
Yeah.
versus the mass generic
Mhm.
uh, items like ore. You'll find like iron ore or silver, but like if you want like specific things like dark iron
Mhm.
or true silver, you have to either go into this volcanic mountain and find them,
Yeah.
or into the the snowy mountaintops and uncover them that way. I
Or
think
during
that
the
is
day or
awesome.
night, you know?
Oh God,
Yeah.
I don't even know how I feel about like. Oh, you can't see, that was a thing that I wish they did in that gatherable, because they were like, oh, you can only see them at night because they glow, which I thought was like, okay, that's cool, but can you still gather them during the day?
Yeah, right?
Like they should have showed it spawn, like just be like, disclaimer, it's not going to spawn exactly right in front of me. Like, it's not going to always spawn right here. This is just an example that you can't see it until it spawn or until nighttime comes.
Yep. And so I guess to reiterate, 100% I am for semi-random spawns. I didn't even get into the land management side of things, but yeah, as far as spawns, I don't want it to be in the exact same place every time. I know that's not what they want to do. So,
I mean, with every gatherable being able to survey, kind of like how WoW did, track ore, track
yeah.
herbs and stuff like that. I think that is a pretty cool thing. You
I
know,
would love to see them
I don't.
expand upon what the survey system is too, because I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I remember surveying in WoW was archaeology, and that was a cluster F. I hated that, and I regret spending months at a time just to get a stupid epic stat that was basically useless by the time I
You
got
got
it.
it. Yeah.
God,
I know that's all that Reddit was
uh,
talking about in the classic subreddit was, oh, they released archaeology in pre-patch. Guess you got to grind it. uh,
yeah.
uh,
I mean, I like the idea of randomizing, especially coming from New World. So many people like, oh, this is the path you got to
yep.
take, and I would like, okay, I need oil, which was weird that you mined oil with a
It
pickaxe.
was a little strange. I'm not gonna lie.
But I would go throughout the little route. I'm like, well, someone else is here because I don't see shit. Um, I think I had another. Did I have another thing regarding gathering?
Man, it was so nuts. In New World, like you needed, what was it, iron ore? Like when it first released, like you needed a ton of the basic resource to the point where you were bottlenecked not by the rarer resources, you were bottlenecked by being able to get as much of the basic iron as possible, which I thought was always kind of backward. Because by the end, it was like, oh shit, I need this like basic spawn in order to start making
Right.
things. And it's always so
I
disheartening, and I'm sure you understand this on a base level, but when you see that character with the barcode name make an exact angled turn towards the node and an exact angled turn and walk in a straight line towards the next one, you're like, ugh, this bot is an actual bot. It's always the worst, you know?
I used to love to fear them around if they were alliance.
That's good.
Another one has to do with crafting. I did write it down. Because of the whole land management system and how he said, if you over harvest certain things, it would respond slower and slower. and it can even spawn dynamic events based on what you're harvesting. I thought was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But the question is, do you think that every tree or rock will be able to be gathered? Mainly trees, but it seems like you're going to gather a lot of the basic rocks.
I do think I think that like 90% of trees will be able to be gathered. I feel like maybe perhaps not trees. Well, maybe I don't want to use 90%, but like I think most trees will be able to be gathered, but big set piece trees or really, really large
Right.
trees, like you say
Like
in a
like the
corrupt
one
what? Sorry.
oh no, sorry. The one like they showed in the fighter showcase, where they leveled up the area, or the
Yeah.
commissions where, yeah, that giant tree we see, yeah, I can understand not chopping that down
Yeah.
because it's a
It's like a set
POI,
piece, you know?
but
Or it's like you
so
obviously
so the
can't just
thing,
mine a mountainside, like the mountains that you see,
right?
like, in
But like a rock extruding from it,
yeah.
you could like, oh, this is because they have stonemasonry, and you want to be using iron or copper for stonemasonry, you'd be using brick in general, like ore, or was it cobblestone, like basic rock material.
So yeah,
And that's kind of like what I'm.
yeah, that makes sense. I do think that it will be the new world style where you can mine or we can mine or chop down pretty much any tree. But it looks very
And
apparent that you will know what trees can and cannot be mined or like harvested in rocks and
yeah,
what.
when he was doing it, it seemed like there was like a very small, like if you watch like when he was mining or chopping down trees, like there was like a small white dot in the
Yeah.
center of that tree that I could tell you. But with the whole land management system, so like when it comes to that, right? In order to level up the node, like say if we wanted to load up Winstead, right? You would want it becomes a kind of uh how much can we do this? Because obviously you want to do as much as possible to, fast level your node. But if you do it too much, you end up reducing your land, like you're gonna get less and less trees
Things aren't
later.
spawning, you know?
So the way I see it being played out is as soon as the game launches, everything is getting chopped down.
Yep.
Everything is going to get destroyed. There's going to be a shit ton of dynamic events that are going to spawn from it. Oh, you pissed off, Treebeard because you killed all the trees, and he's going to come out of the woodworks. Oh, fished. This is one of the things I liked how he said, like, if you overfish something, like it showed in the node live stream way back when with the little cards.
Mhm.
If you overfish an area and then like the aquatic get mad and they come onto the land. And the thing that popped in my head was imagine just sitting there fishing and just seeing, for
The
example,
Leviathan
the
just pop out.
the Murlocs are unhappy with you overfishing their food source. They are going to get more aggressive, and you just see them slowly come out of the water and set up camp.
Oh, that'd be
And I,
wild.
I I just love the idea of that. Is once just a normal looking lakeside, now it's like a small camp of Murlocs. What do? You go and kill those Murlocs. Guess what happens? You piss off Mama Murloc, and now she comes out, and now it's like a little tiny POI
Little
of
dungeon
Murlocs with
style raid or a little like, dungeon sized encounter or like group sized encounter. And then maybe that
right.
Mama Murloc drops a bauble for your fishing pole that something.
Yeah, it makes it easier to fit. Or what are those? The anglerfish? Like you steal the little light bulb on its head to put on your fit to
Oh,
craft
that's
a
great.
legendary fishing pole
And also
It's-
blind enemies in
and
a pinch.
blinding, whack 'em with it.
Whack. No, see that's the exact sort of it's the exact sort of thing that if they're building their systems right, they should be able to incorporate. And not just, and like that should be, hopefully their tools are in place, their development tools are in place that they can make 2 or 3 of those and put them around the world and have it not be a huge undertaking to put it in a pond. Now all of a sudden they have the system they've made and they can just, copy and paste it over somewhere else with different creatures, different loot, different triggers and things like that.
Speaking of creatures, comparing to New World, I love how they already have like a plethora of different type of creatures that we'll be able
Oh
to
my
see,
god.
rather than New Worlds. What they had like 5 or 6 different monster types in the world, and that was it.
You're tired of fighting the same wolf over and over again? Well, we gave it glowy eyes this time and it's green. Knock yourself out. Oh
Oh
yeah,
my
that was a
god.
huge thing. Like I liked the combat in New World, fighting things. I thought it felt viscerally fun, but the thing that like once I realized that I'd be fighting the same creatures with the same mechanics, um, then that just takes a lot of the fun out of it. You know, you want to be able to have different scenarios and be able to have skill expression, you know, besides just okay, the wolf's gonna do this next, that's gonna do this next. Like,
One of the favorite weapons in that game. I know I said I played. Well, I think I was actually talking to someone else. That I mainly did a sword and shield with an axe.
mhm.
I love the rapier. I
Oh, I
loved
love
it.
that one too.
The quick. I felt like Fiora from League of Legends,
Yep.
but I hated I hated the hit thing when you would go to stab, and if you were just slightly off from the center of them, like you would just glide right
Oh
past
yeah.
them, and then
You'd
you're
s-
open for an attack. And I'm like, Jesus
you'd
Christ.
see the sword physically go through the model and miss. Like, I hope that like I think that like I loved the riposte part of the rapier, like the
Oh
parry
yeah.
part. That just feels so good. It feels just so perfect
It's
when
like
you.
a counter in like from Elden Ring games or
Mhm.
Sekiro, the parry. I
Yeah.
love I hope that they actually have something similar. Because we have active block, but will we have like a parry where if you have a special skill, like it'd be with a two-handed weapon, or certain weapons would have it, right? Obviously, you can't parry with a staff or maybe something like that, but have a special thing like you know instead of blocking, you can choose the parry or some stuff like that. But it like stuns or like it kind of staggers the enemy
Oh, I
if
think
you.
that would be perfect. Or even if it isn't just that, or maybe for the next or like X amount of seconds they do 50% damage. If they don't
Right,
like the idea of stunning the person, at least having some sort of reactive ability that would disable somebody in some way
right.
would be useful.
And since we're talking about hitboxes, what is your opinion? This is question number 6. What is your opinion on physical collision in terms of PvP and PvE?
Oh man, it's kind of a hard one.
That is,
It really is because when you're in a town, like running around, you don't want to be you can't let a doorway be blocked by a person. You just can't.
I,
You can't have your marketplace be blocked by three people standing side by side wanting to troll.
I,
Like, no way.
um, I think Steven's going to have the foresight to make towns
Yeah.
remove the physical collision because that's what happened in New World. As soon as that launched, everyone
Yep.
was so cluttered you couldn't move, and then you would have the random kids screaming like in the
Yep.
background, just running across.
Oh yeah, because there was voice chat, proxy chat. You just hear, "Get out of the
Yeah,
way!" But I
I have another
mean,
question about the proxy chat, but
I'd hope that
do
in towns allow for you to pass through other players. But I mean, we have to remember, as of now, towns can be places for PvP. So, like,
can you
yeah,
inside the town?
the only places that you are not allowed to fight another player is inside of the main building of their freehold. And my understanding is at player shops. Anywhere else, I think you can just flag on somebody.
I don't think you can flag inside a town. I think there are going to be guards. No,
There will be guards, but you can still flag on somebody. So the idea would
I don't
be,
think that's gonna sound like a really bad idea. Someone's
I
gonna get really
know,
mad
right?
inside town, like screw it, I'm going purple and just AOE everybody.
Yeah, right? Like holy crap. Okay, I didn't like this character anyways. Let's get some maximum corruption. I I I don't know. I This would be another good separate question about, where people should feel safe in the game and be able to not be flagged on. But yeah, I could see them, in PvE perhaps not having collision, but once you've entered PvP, Or, you know, if you or maybe in a raid scenario, I could perhaps see collision happening. I think they're gonna just let you pass through people. Well, actually, no, sorry. I think they won't let you pass through people. They seem to really like the idea of having collision in the world. So I
Yeah,
think
and
wherever they
I,
can, they're going to have collision.
oh, most definitely. And I had the idea. I'm like wondering like, what about physical collision strength? And now people were like, I had some people like, what are you talking about collision strength? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, who decides who pushes who out of the way when it comes in
Hmm.
terms of
Are you saying like if I'm
um
wearing heavy and you're wearing light, I push you out of the way or something like that?
dude, that's what I like originally thought. Um like, or certain abilities would allow you to push, and certain abilities would allow you to prevent. So, like, I think depending on your gear, yes, like they say light armor has more mobile, so maybe your dodges kind of like a Elden Ring style, where you go farther
Mm,
with light
yeah.
armor, and you kind of have a or New World did that too, right? Where if you have heavy armor, it's just kind of like a sidestep.
I have a question for you.
Have an
Kind of
answer.
regarding that. If
Hmm.
they do have like, because you're going to be able to mix and match. You don't need to wear pure light or pure heavy or pure medium or whatever.
Right?
You could mix and
But you do
match.
get bonuses.
Yeah. How do you think they are going to handle those bonuses? Because, you know, in Elden Ring or something like that, you have, or, you know, Dark Souls, my understanding is I haven't played much of them, but you have like a weight system where it's either you're light, heavy, whatever, over encumbered, and then you flop if you're way too heavy instead of rolling. But they don't really have a weight system. So would it be like, would each gear specifically give you more iframes and roll? Would that be like a stat? You know, if I'm wearing 4 heavy pieces and 4 medium pieces, say whatever random amounts, but like, would that be halfway between full medium and full heavy as far as these bonuses, or do you think there's going to be thresholds?
I I don't think because I know New World had that too.
Hmm.
Just kind of weight cells separate based off armor types. But where is because all it says is light armor is more mobile than heavy armor, and that's the only really thing it kind of brings to like in terms of mobility. So I just kind of think that maybe if you wear all of one, that you kind of get a bonus in
Mm.
terms. But it does say itemization choice may potentially play into a universal skill set such as dodge, parry, active blocking. You know, maybe you can't do physical blocks with light armor, but you have increased magical block.
Interesting.
And
So it'd be like for a if you're active blocking, perhaps your mitigation depends on your.
well, I mean, it's gonna depend on the armor because see, that's the other thing that kind of trips me up is this game doesn't have armor
Yeah.
in the sense of damage reduction.
Oh, does it not?
But no, if you look at any
Oh,
piece of gear, it just says, let me see, cloth belt of dark fortunes. When you, obviously it's, alpha, there's not
yeah.
actual everything, but it just says level required, level 15. It gives you 3 will, 90 max health, 7% magical disable chance, and a 6% magical skill cooldown reduction. That's it. So this belt
Huh.
doesn't even give armor or
So
magical mitigation.
interesting. Would they be going more the route of like feral tanks in a WoW, where instead of getting, I mean, you got armor as a feral tank, but I mean, your health pool
Yeah.
was kind of what set you apart. So is it gonna? You think it might be just, you know, instead of mitigation, it's gonna be mostly health, just being able to soak it up. I think
Well,
I'd be very surprised if there wasn't some sort of given.
the thing that makes me think a lot about how, because I had put this into the question and I had asked everyone I know to upvote my question so he answers it. But I asked him, how is damage mitigation going to work is it going to be one damage mitigation is going to mitigate one damage, or is it going to build up percentage damage reduction towards that type? Because in certain things, all because when you look at the damage that was being done, when I was especially with watching Koenig, because he shoots a lot, the numbers were very similar. It wasn't varied. When you look at weapons, and when you look at a weapon in most games, it says 100
between this
damage to
and this.
150 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in this game, it doesn't. It just says like this sword does 79 physical damage.
I
It
bet
has
I bet that they are going to add some variance cuz it would be it would be less engaging if they did. They're already making it so you don't know how much health the
health.
enemy has.
Yeah,
So
I like how I
like
already knew what you were going with before you said it.
yeah, it's like
Uh,
so it's going to be interesting.
but
Perhaps with Keenage, like it's just the damage numbers were so small to begin with that, the 10% of variance like wouldn't have changed it anyways or something.
but then I don't know if you ever. I mean, I kind of my wife says I'm a little obsessed sometimes, but I mean that's just who I am. Because I went through and I looked at a lot of the items. They're general stats, but some of the items would have, oh, you get seven, like say for example, you get 10 armor,
Mhm.
physical mitigation. Sorry, someone on words. But then sometimes it would say you get 3% physical mitigation or penetration. So it's like, where is it? Like, is it going to be one mitigation for 1 point of damage and penetration, deletes that,
I
or
I would not I don't think I would want them to go with just percentage based stuff because I mean ultimately when you're upping your armor, you are increasing a percentage of, your
right,
mitigation against somebody who's well, I'm thinking at least from WoW's perspective, X amount of armor, X amount of mitigation, diminishing returns, and then penetration and
right,
stuff, plays its part. But if it's pure, I want them to avoid pure percentages because that's one of the main things that at least in vanilla World of Warcraft, the things that gave you 1% hit or a flat 1% crit, those were extremely powerful because it didn't matter what your level was. It didn't matter what the other person was doing. If
right.
1% crit is 1% crit. And that's why I'm sure you remember like why they went to like a crit rating instead of just 1% crit in C. And so
Right.
I would totally see them. I'd be very surprised if they did any sort of flat percentages on weapons. Now skills, or sorry, like on things you equip. Now skills, 10% extra this, 10% extra that. That makes sense. It's
That
a
makes sense.
skill,
Yeah.
right? But as far as armor, I think they leave themselves a lot more space for upgrades
Yeah.
if they
You
have these.
they might change it. It's also, not in alpha 2 yet. So they
Yeah.
might change it to be numbers and then just slowly, diminish returns. And because like there's like so many stats that kind of have counters, right? You have
Oh yeah.
mitigation versus penetration. You have evasion versus accuracy when it comes to PvP. And that's another thing is if they plan to keep them one for one, like say 100 mit, mitigation gives you a 10% chance or 10% damage reduction. That means penetration would have to give you 10% um, armor penetration. Because if you make one too unbalanced, if one's stronger than the other one basically becomes useless.
Yeah. No, that
Like
makes sense.
evasion and accuracy. If you make accuracy too overpowered to counteract evasion, that means okay, why would I want to get evasion if it's not that hard for people to outscale me with accuracy?
Mhm.
Then if people stop going evasion, there's no point in going accuracy. So you basically just killed that step in a sense.
Yeah. I
And then there's sorry, good.
Oh, no, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then we got the plethora of stats we don't know much about.
Oh, definitely.
Um, because we don't know if there's going to be increased block chance, increased block strength. Um, then there was another one when they did the crafting, they created that sword. It, they didn't even go over, which upset me because when I paused the stream and I looked at it, it said 110 life steal rating. What does that mean? Do I get 110 health every time I do an attack? Do I
It
get
makes
like,
me think, like, because I remember pausing there too. Like, I feel like there must have been hundreds of people pausing at that exact same
oh yeah,
moment.
you're like, what does this
What is
have?
this? Anytime I see text, I have my space bar ready. Um, but oh, hey Boogie, how you doing? It's been a while. Um, but yeah, no, I think they have to go rating because rating is 100% like something that you can tweak and it makes sense. People feel really bad when they make your 1% extra life steal turn into something that's less. People feel less bad when you make a change to life steal rating and how it works in
The
general.
scaling of it
Yeah.
because it makes it weaker in the long run, but in the short run, you still get a small bonus.
So I have a
But like, I'm
question
looking.
for you then.
Go ahead.
It's a little bit it's tangentially related to what we're talking about. What are your
Okay.
thoughts on all craftable items eventually degrading? Because my understanding is that every single item in the game, whether it's been crafted or found, made, eventually will break.
Like having to go to a repair person, have it
Well, I mean,
repaired,
I think permanent.
or just it breaks. Oh,
I,
permanent. Oh,
I think it might be permanently. At least that's kind of what I
I
understand from it. Like you could repair it, but only
when
up to a certain durability. That durability over time will wear down, and then perhaps the item either needs to be scrapped or I wouldn't say it would completely break. Like,
forged. Um, I mean, I like the idea of it degrade. I like the idea of items degrading and you having to go to um a shop and repair
it's a
it.
very good gold sink.
Yeah, definitely a good goal sync. However, the issue with I see with that if they so like say if it was a sword, legendary sword, obviously it's gonna be almost insanely it's gonna be insanely hard to if you have to use those rare resources to repair it. Say like the dagger, had the claw of the fire dragon. Well, that fire dragon no longer spawns because the metropolis got destroyed. So you can only use that weapon for so long. But if you have to use basic materials such as, the ore that it was crafted with, or the leather with for the armor, that kind of makes more sense. But it seems like it would be very tedious to try to find crafters that are going to be willing to, and it would probably be tedious for people who have to repair other people's items
Yeah.
if that's the route they go. Because if I'm a blacksmith and I want to create like the best plate armor, and most of my day is like, hey tank, can you repair this? Can you repair that? I'm like, I just want to play the game.
Exactly. Well,
I
my
don't want to be an
understanding
NPC repairing people.
Well, my understanding, and might be wrong with this one, is that I've at least seen some of the major content creators seem to think that all items eventually will break permanently, and so this idea that you need to make sure that you are, constantly getting items into the system, completed items into the system. I don't know how I feel about an item degrading all the way. I mean, I could see it being an engaging aspect of just always needing to make sure that you are creating new items and having items like an item sink as opposed to a gold sink, so that once somebody is bis, they don't just stay bis forever. They need to actively be trying to get another item. But something just doesn't feel good about you know if, oh shit, I shouldn't be using this massive sword that I really really like, that's really good, because eventually it'll break. I should be saving it for other things like that. That feels less good to me. Having to
Yeah, that feels very shitty, and yeah, I would not want that kind of a system. I'd rather them have a gold sink of repairing. Maybe having to get the ore, and then you go to a blacksmith within town and he repairs it. That's as far as I'm willing to go. If I'm spending all this time to create, like, say, fire resistant gear, so I can go and take on the fire dragon within, Mount Doom or whatever, and during the middle of a fight, the armor just breaks off. I'd
Bye.
be, or we wipe and
Yeah.
hey guys, we can't do this. My chess piece just broke and got destroyed.
That's pretty
We
rough.
can't do this now. I really hope he doesn't go with that.
Yeah.
I don't remember him talking about that, but I
Bookie
really
in
don't
my
like that
chat
idea.
just asked, shouldn't it be the other way around so that crafted items should be more durable than the stuff you loot? Do you think that crafted items might be more durable than just looted items?
I think they should.
I think it might
I
depend on the
think
level of the craftsman or something like that.
if it's a term of like how oh, that would be insanely awesome, because that means
Yeah.
you would want to seek out those grandmasters. And WoW had
Definitely.
a kind of an interesting thing on the I forget which expansion was, but they had Warforged, and then there was one of them that was called Indestructible, and it was basically like a legendary, or not, it was like a raid tier item, but it had no durability loss ever.
Whoa, that's kind of
And
wild.
I, that'd be pretty cool for like enchanters to be able to enchant a piece of gear. What do you want? Do you want
More
five
durability, more
percent crit
damage.
chance, or do you want, or yeah, never to have for repair?
We're Minecraft now,
And I
boys,
mean,
waiting, getting our extra durability on our pickaxes, baby.
what was it? Yeah,
Do you think that?
sharpening plus
Oh
five,
yeah. Do you think that your gathering materials are going to need to be repaired?
gathering tool.
Sorry,
I can
gathering
see
tools.
easily
Yeah.
because that kind of makes more. Yeah, well, I assume that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, Having to repair the ore ingot would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I think tools should have durability. I don't think it should be fast. Maybe if it was like crap, like low quality, but the higher quality you get should it should take a lot longer. Because I know New World had that, and I felt like I was always breaking my axes,
Yep. I feel that on
and
a
I'm like,
spiritual level.
God damn it, I forgot to repair my pickaxe. Now I have to head back, get it repaired.
It was
But
always
I
the
mean,
worst when you saw something like a high level, like a node you really wanted, you hit it once, it breaks. Like, no. Like that was the
I do
worst.
think when it comes to like stuff like that, I think lower level people should be able to mine rare resources. But just to mind you, you're using low quality gear to try to get a high quality item. You should lose more durability, and you still have a low chance of getting that rare item.
Oh,
I
that's
think that would
yeah.
be a fair trade off. Like
And
that would make you want to like get the better gear because you can't just spam low level items with it.
yeah, like and that, that definitely opens up interestingly enough, I think I'd be okay if gathering tools like permanently. Um just
Albeit legend, anything that you have to fight a boss for. Like I think anything that you craft from a boss material should not be able to be broken like that.
mm,
If it's just pure true silver ingots and elder wood, okay, those are gatherable as you go to an area you gather
yeah.
it. Fine. But if I have to get the scale of a dragon to create whatever, that shit should not break.
So
Because
on
that
all
would
yeah,
basically be
that makes sense.
impossible.
That feels horrible too, because you put all this effort into getting this. So then I guess another option, what are your thoughts on okay, I guess I'll preface this. They've talked in the past of the idea of um as your weapon decreases in its overall available durability and your gear, that it scales accordingly and loses effectiveness. Personally, I do not like that. But what I could see is perhaps, if you have a legendary item and you've broken it all the way down, you've repaired it a lot of times, its maximum durability is all the way down. Perhaps then at that point, it's like 10% decreased in its effectiveness. It's like it's still really good. It's just, not as effective as it could be. my thought is, perhaps if you get another one of those rare resources that was used to craft it, then you could kind of recharge that thing back up. I play old school RuneScape quite a bit, and it's kind of a dividing part of the community whether or not there should be these chargeable items. But that could be one way to control these items, is to make them like make it necessary for you to charge them up.
I
It's
mean,
still kind of like another
it's
like
kind of like how Elder
annoying
Scrolls
part.
is.
Like what
And
is?
that's
Sorry.
kind of like how Elder Scroll is. Like you have an enhancement on your weapon. Like say, oh, when you attack, you life steal or you
Mhm.
receive mana, stamina, and then like every time you use it, it slowly drains your the soul charge within your weapon. That I understand, but losing effectiveness as in like damage done, I no, man. I worked hard to craft, the blessed blade of the Windseeker. All right, I want that thing to be doing all the lightning.
You
I
mean
hated
Thunder
the
Fury,
soul
Blessed
charge
Blade of
thing.
the Windseeker? I don't know if I've heard about Thunder Fury,
It,
Blessed Blade of the Windseeker.
I may have said it wrong. It's been a while since
No,
I've seen that
I
spam in
I
chat.
just remember the spam and trade chat. It would always be like, "Oh, did you mean Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker?" People would just spam it over and over, linking to it. Uh, well, I mean, I think you said that you usually go till 8. I think I will probably have to head out here, but I definitely think we should do this again because this was fun. It was nice being able to bounce ideas off of somebody about this. If
Dude,
you're
let's see. I
down.
still got like 10 questions, or 8, 9 questions I haven't asked you
I
yet.
know.
I'll have to save them.
Oh, definitely. Um,
Yeah, I actually haven't even noticed that I'm 20 minutes over. I mean, like I said, when I'm talking to people and actually being engaging, you don't really feel the
oh no,
walk.
I just looked
Also, it helps
over.
to have a portable spawn core.
I just looked over and I was like, oh, it's been an hour and 45 minutes. Like I would have guessed it was like 30 or something.
I mean, yeah, if you have to go, I mean,
Yeah, I do. But
I'm fine for keep going, but
yeah, no,
I mean, I'll
unfortunately, I
be on
do have to
tomorrow.
go. But it's been super fun talking to you. We'll have to do this again in the
It's
future
fun
for
talking to
sure.
you too. Oh yeah, yeah. Just hit me up. I'm in the same place tomorrow.
Hey, well, have a good night, man.
You too. Thanks for the
Bye.
talk.
Farewell.